Hey there friends, and welcome to day 11 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July tutorial series here on my channel. If you're just joining in, you can find links for the first 10 days at the top of the description so you can get caught up. And if you're new around here, I hope you will consider hitting the subscribe button to join our crafty little family. Today we're creating a very chunky, fun, and festive mini album. So if that sounds good to you, stick with me and we'll make it together. Before we get going, just a quick reminder to watch out for the question of the day. Now let's get started. We're going to work with the Simple Stories Make It Merry 12 by 12 collection kit. I love this collection. This is my favorite one from the whole series, but I always do like the Simple Stories collection, so that does not come as a big surprise to me. I just wanted to very quickly share with you something that goes on behind the scenes here during our 12-day series, and that is that I try to prepare a project in advance because they are quite time consuming. I would average probably about 8 hours for a video of a project this size, and so I do like to be a little prepared in advance in case something comes up and I'm only able to film that day, or I just need a little bit of a break. So this was the project that I had prepared about 2 weeks ago, and the pieces are all cut. I just needed to assemble it. This morning when I got up, I began to finish the preparations for this so that I could film it today. And I just looked at this as a very deep accordion book with these hard sides on it. And I looked at this book with all of these pieces that fold out and all the pages, and I looked at the instructions, and then I looked at the book and I looked at the instructions, and I thought to myself, if I can't figure this out, how can I share it with the friends? So I did have to go back this morning to the drawing board and recreate a base. Since I already had all of my pattern paper cut, I needed to follow the measurements for this book, so we're going to do that. We may revisit this sometime in the future when I don't have 5 a.m. brain, but it just wasn't going to work out for this project. So in case you thought everything went smoothly, you would be giving me far too much credit. So let's just put that one aside. That guy has the overachiever kind of energy level, and I'm not about that. I want to have fun. I want to get my projects done in a reasonable amount of time. So we're just going to pass on that one for today. But we're going to do the same measurements like I mentioned. So I've got some components here prepared and we can build on this. So we're going to start with our 65-pound weight cardstock. I have this cut to be 6 inches by 10.5. It's scored at 5 and also 5.5. So each of these sections are going to be 1/2 inch deep, and I'm not going to worry about the double-sided tape and wet glue combo for this because we're going to wrap all of our pages. I have tape just on that one side. I'm bringing these corners together, and there we have the whole spine laid out here. I have quite a lot of tape on this, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. So this is 4 sections combined. I would say you could add as many or as few as suits the project that you have. Just keep in mind that this is a lot of paper that you're going to go through of your collection and your cardstock. So you probably want to consider starting with a full collection if you make this album, as I have it shown here. As the finished project will be 4 sections. So just remember that while you're working along. Okay, so I've got all of my tape pulled here, and I'm going to include an additional item, which I have not been doing in the past because I don't typically make an album that is a 2-inch spine. So I want to kind of reinforce this with an additional piece, and this is 110-pound cardstock. It's cut to be 2 inches wide by 6 inches tall, and I put a whole another layer of that double-sided adhesive on there. I'm just going to line this up, and this is just going to be an extra layer of sturdiness and reinforcement for our spine. So I'm just pressing that into place as best I can. So now we're going to wrap that as I do, because I like to have a finished edge all the way around. So it's time to bring in the scoreboard. I have done this a fair few times. I just want to adhere my base and then do my scoring as I work along, because it's very difficult to get those measurements precise when the additional layers add just a little bit of space. So I have my piece here. This is 65 pound weight cardstock, and it's cut to be 5 by 6 so that it will wrap the whole outside edge. And I'm just going to line this up here along the bottom so that it will stay nice and straight. And I'm not pressing it into the spine quite yet. I'm just going to get it positioned so that I can open this up and then press that over. We did share this in previous videos where we create our book with the spine, but I think it is okay to cover this again because the measurements are kind of unique to this book. So I'm going to fold that over, and I'm noticing that I do have a little bit of tape I can remove here for this process. And I'm folding it right along that score line that we have already created. So everything is staying nice and level across the bottom. I'm holding it up, see, so it won't adhere all the way down. And then I'm just going to flip it over again and push all of the pages to one side so we can line up that score line with one of the grooves that is in the scoreboard. And then we'll make our score line right against that edge. And now we know that it will fit perfectly. And here's just the last little bit of the backing for the tape. And then I'll press that over right along the line that we just scored, and everything will be nice and even. Okay, this is a great set of pages. We need it to be sturdier. So we're going to wrap all of the inside pages with an additional layer. This is going to give us a nice finished edge on the outside. And so we're going to the 65 pound weight cardstock. This is measured to be 6 inches high by 10 inches wide and scored at 5. And I'm gonna just go ahead and cover that last set of pages by sliding this up here, making sure it's even and level, pressing that down. Then when I flip it over, I can remove the backing from this side of the tape. You will need 3 of these for the inside pages. So I'm gonna stick with the 65 pound weight for the inside. And this will finish off that first page. Then I'm going to switch to 110 pound cardstock so that our cover will be extra sturdy. So I'll just repeat that same process and bring those corners together. Make sure the edge is right along the score line. Then I can take the tape from this side. You will need 2 of these that are 110 pound, obviously, 1 for the front cover and 1 for the back. Let's push this over. Now it goes all the way up against that score line for our spine. So let's do the other side the same way. This is so much easier than the other base that I created, y'all. That one just made me want to sit in the pantry and eat cookies because I just could not seem to work it out. Maybe when I'm not trying to get my first cups of coffee in, I'll be able to process that one. But I think we're all going to be a whole lot happier with this one. Okay, so now we have 4 sections on the inside of a nice, large, thick, chunky spine. And then all of our pages are wrapped with that additional layer. So I have one more component to finish off the base, and that is our full-size flip pages. So we're going to go back to the 65 pound weight cardstock. They're 6 inches high by 10 inches wide and scored at 4. I put adhesive on only one side, and here is the place where we do want to bring in that additional layer of adhesive. So these are going to be the same size as the pages. All you have to do is make sure that your score line is on the outside and line up the corner and the edge and the bottom. And you will have 4 of these, one for each section. So the tape will hold that in place while the glue sets up so we can continue to work along here. This would be another place that you could consider adding a tip-in with a journal card as well, if you wanted to include more of those. And if you have left yourself enough room, we're gonna fill this book up pretty well. So I think that we're gonna stay with the page flip for this project. And for some reason in my mind, it makes sense to keep them all on the same side. So they're all going to open toward the left. Here is that last page. I've lost count now of how many layers that we have, but you can imagine this is getting to be quite thick and chunky and sturdy. Okay, that is 4 full-size flips for each section of the book. And now we can move on to finishing it with our collection papers. One thing I appreciate about books that have the same size pages is that you really only need one set of measurements for filling all this in with your layers. So my cardstock layer for this piece is going to be 5 7/8 inch high by 4 7/8 inch wide. The pattern paper is 5 3/4 by 4 3/4, and that is consistent throughout, including the front and back covers. So that is very helpful when you're cutting. It makes it much faster and easier. So I'm gonna use a beautiful cherry red cardstock throughout, and we'll get those borders as well as the border from the base. So here's the inside of those flip pages, and I wanted to do a little special detail for this side. So I have the same measurements in the cardstock borders, but this time I put it up on a spacer, and so this is going to add a great deal of dimension and sturdiness for our book. So I'm just going to get that centered over top. And for each of our pages that we have, each section is going to have the flip page, and I'm covering it with the same pattern paper just for a consistent look. The left-hand pages are going to get a pocket. So I'm going to bring my scoreboard back in just real quickly. I don't like to do measuring again on this because there are so many different measurements that you could come up with depending on how many layers, and I want it to be as easy as possible. So I've got my pattern paper cut, my cardstock to wrap around that so we have a little bit of extra room in the pocket. So I have my red cardstock cut 3 inches high by 6 inches wide. I came in to my scoreboard and I scored it a 1/2 inch from the bottom, so that would be 2.5. And then I flipped it over and I set my pattern paper onto it. I lined it up with one of the grooves and made a score line there. I shifted it over just slightly and made another score on that side as well. Now I know that it will fit in there exactly and it won't have any buckling of the pattern paper underneath. I did also clip off the excess from the corners just to reduce a little bit of that bulk. So I will make sure the direction of my pocket is going up, and then I'll slide that in to here where the score line on the bottom is and make sure that it's centered. And I'm going to adhere that to the cardstock base. The next thing I want to do is add this with the 2 glue combo, just so that I know that it will be very well secured. So I'll flip that over, remove the backing from the tape. We don't need this now. Then I'll secure this to the right hand side. Then I can finish the top of my pocket with this additional layering pattern. So I just mixed up the scale of this. This is more of a floral, and now I have a geometric, and this is much smaller scale, so it will be a nice layering pattern and not look busy. So this is going to be 2 1/4 inches high by 4 3/4 inches wide. So that is my pocket for the right hand side. I'm going to repeat the process for the remaining pages, so I'll just speed that portion up because it's the same for all the sections. I'll give you a little music to listen to, and then I'll come back when I'm done and we can finish filling up these pockets. So you can see that I just went ahead and I finished the back as well. And I'm going to cover our spine with an additional layer of the cardstock and pattern paper. So the spine for this is going to be 5 7/8 by 1 7/8 for the cardstock. And the pattern paper is going to be 5 3/4 high by 1 3/4 high. I wound up just combining a couple of the patterns because I didn't want to cut into an additional sheet just to get this size out. So I'm okay with kind of combining those patterns. So I've got quite a lot of the double-sided tape on there, and I'm gonna just have an additional layer with that Tombow. It will help me to pull this closer so I can see over top. I've just added that pattern paper right to the spine. So I want to include an insert and a tag for each of these pockets. The base layer is going to be 5.5 inches high by 4 1/4 inches wide. We'll switch to the cardstock now, and this is going to be 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and the pattern paper is going to be 4 by 5 1/4, and that just tucks nicely right down in there. And then I've also got one of the tags from the collection cut out to add to the pocket as well. So for each of these pockets, I just picked a layering pattern that I thought would look nice with it and not be too busy. Here's our last insert and tag, and that's all for the inside. We can work on the front cover now, and I've already wrapped it with my ribbon. This is the bold check in red, and I just temporarily tacked that into place with a little hot glue so it will stay where I want until I can sandwich in between the paper layers. Once again, all of these full-size pages have the same measurement, and that is including the front. The only difference here is I'm going to add a layering pattern. So I've got the cardstock cut to be 4 wide by 5 high. The pattern paper is 3 7/8 by 4 7/8. So we're going to get a nice size border of that beautiful dot showing all the way around. You'll notice that I put that up on a spacer so that we can build a little dimension. Here is the layering pattern for this portion, and it is 2 1/4 high by 3 7/8 inch wide. We'll just use that border for the base layer that's already there. And next I've got a doily here. This is die cut from a white cardstock just to neutralize some of that background. And then the inspiration for this whole book, this is my favorite image from the collection, that beautiful winter bird Cardinal. We have beautiful winter birds here in Michigan, so it kind of reminded me a little bit of home. And so I'm putting that on. It is cut with a circle die that has a stitched edge, and then I put a border of that beautiful red cardstock. Couple of last details. Of course, I've got my flowers in. I hope that you were able to see the tutorial where I made a few of the arrangements for this series. So this is going to cover that cut edge on the bottom, and then I've got an additional one here for balance on the top. Let's just go ahead and add this bottom one with a little hot glue. My Cinch and Go poinsettia with the flowers from the Be Bold Blooms by Spellbinders, and this is a really pretty combination. I finished those with some glitter paper that was cut for the center. And then before we adhere our second arrangement, I did want to include a couple of charms here. So I just got some little skates, and I thought I would add those and then just hide the cut strings with that second flower arrangement. So let's position that where we want it to fall. This is a good time for our question of the day. Would you rather have a cup of hot chocolate or a creamy sweet cup of eggnog? So I am going to pick hot chocolate because I can add that to my coffee and pretend that I have a fancy coffee house mocha cappuccino. So let me know in the comments what you're going to pick as your choice for the question of the day. Here is our second arrangement up here on the corner. And we can go ahead and tie this book up. There is lots of room in here to fill those pockets. So you're going to have lots of pictures and memories included when you finish this album. We've got a nice size bow tied there, and I can just come back in and clip off the excess ribbon at an angle so that I can keep it from fraying. Now, as promised, it's time to draw the name of the winner for the Polly's Paper Studio collaboration giveaway with Renee Bouquets. First, I want to thank the lovely Renee for providing me with the gorgeous crafty supplies and for being such a great supporter of my channel, and of course to all of you who played along. So inside this bowl is the name of everyone who followed the rules to be eligible to win. I copied and pasted the names to avoid any confusion, and my apologies in advance, as there's about 100% chance I will mispronounce your name. So I typically would like to have the tech hubby draw the name for our contest, but he has a fairly serious case of poison ivy right at the moment, so I don't think any of us really want to see that on camera. So I think I'll just mix this up a little bit here and give it a stir, and then we can draw a name from this bowl. So here is our winner, Nancy Wilson. Congratulations, Nancy Wilson. Can you please reach out to me with a private message on the Polly's Paper Studio Facebook group? That way you can share with me your contact information. So thanks again for everyone who played along. I think this was a really fun giveaway, and I'll get that package out to you as quickly as I can. So that's all for our chunky mini album for day 11 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for day 12. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, remember to comment, like, and subscribe. You can find links to the products I mentioned as well as for all our socials in the description below. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.